all the distinguished participants today. Incidentally, most of the Indians in the room would know, but for those from America, yesterday we started the auspicious days of the Hindu calendar. It's called Navratri, and 22nd September, things are expected to turn for the better. We also launched GST2, a massive overhaul of the indirect taxation yesterday, and that will give a big boost to demand of goods and services, including in the renewable energy sector, as Suman just confirmed to me. I'm talking about Navratri not in the context of the trade deal. Incidentally, it could also be benefited by the auspicious days starting. Today, 23rd of September, has also a lot of significance back home in India. We launched Ayushman Bharat 7 years ago on this date. And I think that was a very important program because it brought to the fore a need to ensure quality health care for every citizen of India. It was expanded in earlier this year, or towards the end of last year. In 24, it was expanded to cover everybody above the age of 70 years. So now we have about 620 million beneficiaries of free health care in India. I say this because it's been a success story. It's actually reached healthcare to the common man, unlike the US experiment with healthcare. And our governments don't come into standstill or don't stop functioning because two parties cannot decide whether healthcare should be a part of the budget or no. In India, healthcare is truly being recognized as an important element, and we are delighted that today we celebrate 7 years of making sure everybody has good healthcare available for them. I'm here to talk about energy security. And clearly, the world recognizes that this is one area where we all have to work together. India is a big player in the energy field, as Pankaj just mentioned. We are big importers of energy from across the world, including from the US. We expect to increase our trade with the US on energy products in the years to come. And being close friends, natural partners, our energy security goals will have a very high element of US involvement, which will ensure price stability, which will ensure diversified sources of energy for India, and help us unlock limitless possibilities with the US on various fronts, energy and beyond. Another area where India and the US can work together, plan to work together, is nuclear power. It's an area that we've been talking of for a long time. There were certain elements which needed to be set right, and I believe we are working in India to support the private efforts on nuclear power, also on the small modular nuclear power innovation that is happening in the US, and to sort out the issue of liability that has held back nuclear power growth between the US and India. Of course, India continues to invest in nuclear power, and we'll probably double our nuclear power in the coming years through government intervention, but we do hope to take it on a much bigger scale. It does have challenges of price, the cost of energy, which will need to be sorted out. We'll have to make it more competitive, particularly given what Pankaj just mentioned, that solar power along with 2 hours of storage, battery storage is now available at about 3 cents. I'm told if you want 80% round the clock renewable energy, you can get it for about 6.5 cents. And if you're looking at 24-hour clean energy, you could possibly get it for about 8 or 9 cents. And that, to my mind, is probably amongst the lowest anywhere in the world. It would be a mix of solar, wind, possibly some hydro thrown in, pump storage, battery storage, acting somewhat like a UPS of the good old days. But collectively today, India is in a sweet spot to expand our clean energy. Over the next 5 years, we hope to grow from 250 gigawatt to 500 gigawatt. And bear in mind, India has one very big advantage which not many countries can offer. We have an integrated national grid. So even today as we speak, we have a national grid of 500 gigawatt, half of which is renewable, and offers you much more resilience, much more stability. It ensures that the demand at different points of time in different parts of the country will get socialized. And I think this is a very important element for those from the US who are looking to set up data centers in India. Because that resilience that a large grid like that, a 500 gigawatt grid, which over the next 10 years will possibly expand to at least 1,000 gigawatt. It truly provides confidence in that grid, and I would believe will be a very attractive proposition for data centers in the coming years to relocate or locate themselves in India. We also provide huge amount of talent and innovation for which Indian engineers and Indian graduates are famous. That also provides us an opportunity to provide solutions for corporations across the world, including in the US, to support their growth plans, to support their plans to focus on new research and development, new ideas. The startup ecosystem in India is very vibrant. A lot of new companies coming up with bright ideas which go beyond the traditional renewable energy sources. And I think in some sense what we are seeing in India today is convenient action, something that Prime Minister Modi had articulated in 2010 as the Chief Minister of Gujarat, when soon after Vice President Al Gore came out with the inconvenient truth. If you recall, it was like a wake-up call for the world. Though in India, it's something we always recognized. It wasn't something that came as a new truth or some new discovery. India has always respected nature, has always focused on the circular economy, has respected the planet, and I remember Mahatma Gandhi in his writings had said, we are all trustees of the planet. We inherit the earth as trustees, and it's incumbent on all of us collectively to leave behind a better planet than the one we inherited. And in some sense, that is what all of you, particularly in the renewable energy space, are contributing to doing. And India continues to be committed to our fight against climate change. We continue to look at our contributions committed at Paris very seriously. Amongst the G20 countries, we are one of few who submits their performance report every 2 years to the UNFCCC. We are amongst the best performing G20 countries in meeting our targets on emission, on expanding renewable energy, on mitigation factors. And I think going forward, as Pankaj said and Suman Sinha confirmed, India will continue to be a very attractive producer of equipment, not only solar or wind equipment, but or hydro equipment, all of which now is being made in India in sufficient volumes, but also as a country that will innovate. So we are looking at hydrogen and green ammonia playing an important role going forward. We are looking at newer and newer sources of fusion technology, hopefully going beyond uranium requirement so that we can be more self-reliant in India. We are also one of the largest blenders of ethanol, the Biofuels Alliance that Pankaj spoke about. We are at 20% ethanol blending in our petrol. We are looking at what more we can do through biodiesel or biofuels. We are also keen to look at flexi-fuel engines because we believe it's not only about replacing petrol, it's not only about climate change, it's not only about saving foreign exchange reserves. I think it's about ensuring our farmers also get a good value for the feedstock that comes into biofuels. So it's a very holistic vision and a holistic program, all of which leads to energy security, particularly since most of it is indigenous. We are not dependent on foreign sources for that. Friends, Prime Minister Modi about 20 years ago had also articulated his vision of one world, one sun, one grid. I think it was an idea well ahead of that time. At that point of time, not many people took very serious note of it. Today, the world is seriously looking at sun as a very major source of energy. When we talk of the IMEC corridor, for example, one of the elements in that would be the free flow of energy, particularly solar energy or other forms of renewable energy through nations and through transmission grids that go across borders, because that will even out the requirements of power at different points of time in different countries. We are in dialogue with Singapore on the eastern front to see if we can have underwater cables transmitting power. Also a dialogue between Singapore and Australia to see if we could look at power flowing all the way from Australia. On the western side, we're in dialogue with the Middle East countries to see if that same transmission grid can come here onwards to Europe. And imagine if we could actually create a global grid and solar energy can be transmitted to different countries to meet their peak load requirement. It will completely change the energy landscape in the world and also in some sense actually build resilient energy markets across borders in a clean and renewable with a clean and renewable source of energy. And I think that would be probably an outstanding end game to aspire for. It'll bring down energy costs, It'll help address climate change. It'll ensure the best utilization of solar energy, and sun provides enough energy to actually meet the needs of the world. It'll also de-risk countries from very highly fluctuating energy prices and ultimately lead to high level of energy security. In some sense, the International Solar Alliance that India founded with France in 2015, and we'll be celebrating 10 years of that very soon. And if I remember correctly, the ISA was launched during the UN General Assembly. It was launched at the UNGA in 2015. Maybe we'll quickly look up the dates. 2016 it was? Okay. No, he said it even as Gujarat Chief Minister. That's why I said 20 years ago. He repeated that at the COP. But if you go back in time, while he was Gujarat Chief Minister, that's when he had first articulated his thoughts about one sun, one world, one grid. That's why I said it was far ahead of the times when he spoke about it 20 years ago. Friends, one important element we have to bear in mind is that there's a lot of effort to address the impact of climate change through trade measures. And we have to be cautious that we don't allow trade and the climate change or the fight against the impact of climate change to get conflated. Because that has serious risks of actually dissuading countries rather than encouraging countries to join the movement addressing the challenge of climate change. The EU has come out with a carbon border adjustment mechanism, CBAM. It has very far-reaching implications. In fact, it could isolate the EU and hurt their economy, because they would be like a small island and everybody else around them would be trading, whereas they would become price uncompetitive. They would actually cause inflation in their own economy. They would land up causing their infrastructure, their cost of living to become actually unviable. Their products will lose market share in exports. And at the same time, this green protectionism is like a trap in which if somebody buries his head, he may find it very difficult to come out of the sand. And while it's of course the choice of Europe to find their own pathways, given the actions of the United States and the collective reaction against CBAM across the world, I think Europe is going to face a lot of difficulty going forward in coming out of this trap in an honorable fashion and not hurt global trade through such unilateral measures. I think the best way forward for all of us is to ensure resilient critical mineral supplies, see how we can diversify our sources to ensure that trade is not weaponized. We have to work in creating infrastructure, particularly transmission grid infrastructure within countries and across borders, which can act like super grids and become the backbone of clean energy transition for different nations. And we'll all have to work very seriously to align our regulatory frameworks to see how this cross-border energy can be guaranteed without any concerns of geopolitics overtaking the energy resilience or energy security. I think this integration is going to be the most important factor in the years to come. It will not only enable investment to flow, innovation to flow, technology to flow, but also energy to flow in a shifting global landscape and ensure energy security for one and all developed and developing countries, less developed countries, at equitable prices, at attractive prices, and ensure the development of all regions of the world in an equitable fashion, so that we can truly achieve the twin targets of inclusive growth and sustainable growth. Thank you very much.